So we're actually early. We still have 5 minutes, and we should probably be on time so that the folks joining us online don't come in late when they're actually right on time. So we'll wait another 5 minutes. So how do people like the songs so far? Is the music is good? Is that enjoyable? Because we have, that's kind of different, right? To make singing GuanYin. We did make that part of our program. We did the Namo Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, GuanYin Bodhisattva, which is sort of English. It's Sanskrit, but it's English. We did that. Then we did Bodhisattva Guan Shi Yin. That's the English language, GuanYin praise. We did that. And I have lots more, like I showed you. Before I came back to Australia this time, I spent 2 days in the recording studio in Oakland, recording 14 GuanYin Bodhisattva songs. And they're almost all in English. And that was the idea, was to create a project that is devoted to GuanYin Bodhisattva songs. We included the verses from the Pumanpin. We can do those later on in the week, and when we get there, when we get to the verse section. So I think people will enjoy the verses from the sutra. The melody is very simple and easy to follow. And the thing about my recordings are, I'm already old and my voice sounds old, and and I've lost notes on the top and I've lost notes on the bottom. And people said, go ahead and do it anyway, because the goal is to put the songs out so other people can sing them, so other people can pick them up and enjoy them and sing them. So that was the purpose of doing it, even though for listening to my voice is not so enjoyable. So I would probably have not done it myself if it was just, it's not a pleasure to listen to somebody's voice when it's not melodic, But getting the songs out so people can hear what my idea was and then take them and make them their own. That's the plan. So we went ahead and did it. We recorded it. The status of those 14 songs, they're just raw songs. They need to be edited. They need to be then mastered, which is a real art in recording technology, that somebody with really good ears moves the sliders and makes it sound nice. Then they'll be ready to distribute, and I'll hope that folks will enjoy them. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for those songs to get organized, here they are. This is the songbook here. And I have all the songs. We're going to do this one tonight, She Who Hears the Voices. And this one is very special because the melody is from Catalonia, which is southern Spain. It's a melody devoted to not to GuanYin, a melody that was originally for the Blessed Virgin, for the Virgin Mary. And it's from the 13th century, so it's 1200 something. It's an ancient melody. And originally it was sung in Spanish, probably in Latin actually, because it's sacred, but it fits English perfectly. And David Rounds, the late David Rounds, who is a, yes? 他们怎么说？还没到时间，你们等一等，等一等。Okay, another minute，再1分钟。Okay, thank you 没关系，没关系的。我们还没有开始哈，我就是讲话而已，没有。Yeah. So David is made this beautiful melody and fit our perfect. The section of the sutra tonight is this. So we'll sing this tonight, and then you can tell me whether you like it. Okay, let's see now. Share my screen, and we'll put up our request. Okay, 好。 Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo saranto suchedoye ulahudi sammyao sambuddhoshe. 无上甚深微妙法，百千难遭遇我见。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Let me give you a line and you give it back to me. Namo Miao Fa Lian Hua Jing. Fa Hua Hui Shang Fo Pusa. Namo Miao Fa Lian Hua Jing. Fa Hua Hui Shang Fo Pusa. Homage to the wondrous Dharma. Lotus Flower Sutra. And the Dharma Flower Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Alrighty. So we respectfully acknowledge the Kombu-Meri people of the Ugambe language region as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where our monastery is located. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations peoples whose sovereignty was never ceded. 我们恭敬地承认有冈北语族的古隆邦的民族是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事和守护人。我们向他们过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有未曾放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。All right, that's good. We'll take it to there. Welcome everybody. Glad you're with us tonight. My name is Hung Shi. We're at the Gold Coast Dharma Realm. Today is Tuesday, October 31st. It is Halloween. And I notice none of you are here trick-or-treating. So I guess we're letting that one go this year in favor of GuanYin Bodhisattva and this week-long GuanYin Bodhisattva session. So that's what we're about. And thank you so much for those of you who are giving your time and skills to put this lecture online, translating, getting it out on live streaming and on YouTube and all. The audience is coming to listen from all parts of the world. We're excited to have listeners in Vietnam, in Europe, in America, Canada, Latin America, Brazil, and all over Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, China, Taiwan, Vietnam. So that's quite wonderful for us to join together for that reason. Okay, now let's jump right in. We have a lot to get to tonight. So I'll give you a line and you give it back. 我说一句，大家跟着说一句哈。若复有人领当被害，承观世音菩萨名者，彼所执刀杖，寻断断坏，而得解脱。If someone facing deadly harm recites GuanYin Bodhisattva's name, the weapons of the assailants will break apart and he will get away. Okay, we're going to go on. Continue. 若三千大千国度，满中夜叉，罗刹， 语赖恼人，闻其称观世音菩萨名者，是诸恶鬼，尚不能以恶言施之，狂复加害。Ready? Even if the entire threefold great thousand world system were teeming with yakshas and rakshasas, bent on vexing men. When the evil demons hear the name of GuanYin Bodhisattva called out by these men, they will not be able to see them with their wicked eyes, much less do them in. Okay, more. By the way, there are little ants that overnight have grown wings and they're flying. This is the time, every year this happens, so if you see little critters, that's what's happening. And it's just something, it's part of nature, so we just live with it. Okay, next, ready. 设复有人，饶有罪，若无罪，丑卸枷锁，简系其身，称观世音菩萨名者，皆悉断坏，即得解脱。If there is a person, whether innocent or guilty, who is locked in stocks or shackled by ropes and chains, his fetters will snap and fall away. Letting him go free as soon as he invokes GuanYin Bodhisattva's name. Okay, moving forward. More here. This is a long one. Ready? Here we go. 若三千大千国度，满中远贼，有一商主，张诸商人，积持重宝，经过险路，其中一人作是唱言：诸善男子，勿得恐怖，汝等应当一心称观世音菩萨名号，是菩萨能以无畏施。I'm sorry, I did that wrong. 以无畏施予众生，汝等若称名者，于此怨贼，当得解脱。众商人闻，俱发声言：南无观世音菩萨，称其名故，即得解脱。无尽意，观世音菩萨摩诃萨，威神之力，唯如是。Okay, excellent. Here we go. That's a long one. Okay, here we go. Ready? Suppose vicious thieves in legions that could fill a threefold great thousand-world system infest a perilous road, along which a merchant chief guides a trader's caravan laden with precious jewels. If one man among them proclaims, "Good men, do not be afraid. With all your hearts, Invoke the name of GuanYin Bodhisattva, the enlightened one who gives courage to all beings. If we beseech this Bodhisattva, we will surely escape these thieves. Upon hearing this exhortation, if all the traders in unison cry out, Namo GuanYin Bodhisattva, by virtue of calling out GuanYin's name, they will immediately go free. Infinite resolve. How imposing is the awesome spiritual power of the great Bodhisattva who listens to the sounds of all the world. Okay, well done, everybody. Now take a look here. What have we seen? We have finished with the 7 dangers that start the Pumen Pin. Our chapter, this is the Lotus Sutra, Holy Scripture, but it's entirely like an adventure story. It's like a novel or a lian shuju, right? It's like a Chinese traditional soap opera or a Korean soap opera with drama, with danger, with rescues, with excitement. And yesterday, the last 2 days, what did we encounter? We encountered, infinite resolve, Wujini, this Bodhisattva, request Dharma of the Buddha, and the question that he asks is, how did GuanYin get her name? Where did GuanYin Bodhisattva, GuanYin Pusa, how did that name come about? The Buddha says, glad you asked. He said, and he gives 7 stories, 7 answers to the question. He says, suppose there are millions of living beings who are suffering, hear of GuanYin and recite her name, Namo GuanYin Pusa. GuanYin Bodhisattva will immediately respond and set them free from what? From the misery, set them free from their pain and their struggles. Right? Okay, number 2, fire. If they run into a fire, and oh my goodness, today on the news are, what is she? Polishuk? She's the premier of Queensland, right? Is that what she was on the news talking about these towns in southern Queensland that are on fire. It's the bushfires have begun, and everyone is saying things like, oh, it looks like Black Summer from 2019. Everybody remembers if you're from Australia. So the time has come, and here at the Gold Coast Dharma Realm, I can say it tonight, I called the local Benogan Rural Fire Brigade head, a woman named Janice. She's coming next Tuesday in the afternoon to tour GCDR to let us know what she sees about how to prepare our campus for bushfires. And of course, reciting GuanYin's name, although it's not officially listed as a policy for mitigating bushfires, still it's our method, and it's very effective. So we're reciting GuanYin's name this week, but in fact we're also helping protect the area. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the Dharma protectors, do help when there are fires, and where people actually cultivate the way. Doesn't only have to be Buddhist. I have stories about other Catholic monasteries that are spared from forest fires in California when people actually cultivate there. True stories. So, fire won't burn. 2, water, floods. When there is a flood, GuanYin Bodhisattva is very much related to water, and people who go to sea. And of course, floods happen for people who are on the land and the water comes to where you are. So if you are in danger of flood, GuanYin Bodhisattva's name is what you want to keep reciting to protect you from the water. That's number 3. So the first is the general, troubles. Number 2 is fire. Number 3 is water. Now, this one we saw last night. If you go out making your living as a merchant, if you go out buying and selling, and you have to, traditionally, the way people did it over the Silk Road was to pack up lots of goodies that you had in this part where you live, this part of the world, put them on a camel, put them on a horse, and travel a long distance to a place where that stuff isn't available. And then you sell it at a high price because people look at that and go, wow, look, silk, that's beautiful. How much? We'll trade. We've got tobacco, we've got honey, we have silver, jewelry. We'll trade for your silk with our silver. And people did it. Then they have to pack up the goods they trade for and then come back across the desert. Dangerous way to make a living. And here it's done by sea, trading ships. And they, without being able to control the weather blows the ships into demon-infested waters. And those really are places just like that. In that circumstance, if you recite GuanYin Bodhisattva's name, you will be safe from the attention of those demons. This is why she is called the Bodhisattva who hears the sounds of the world. Okay, tonight is our new section. This is number 4. Somebody facing harm, deadly harm, recites GuanYin's names, the weapons of the assailants will break apart, he will get away. What's that called? Mugging. You're about to be robbed by muggers. Of course, as an American, I translate that into mass shootings. Shootings of more than 4 people. It's called a mass shooting incident. America, we are now in the 10th month. I think America has more than 2 per day? We have a total of 700 or something in 2023. Just insane. Yeah. So, recite the name of GuanYin Bodhisattva. Next, what else? Look at this one. So, what if the threefold large Sanqian Daqian Shijie, that's a universe. If the whole universe, meaning everywhere you look, we're teeming with yakshas and rakshasas, ghosts. If there's an infestation by ghosts. Now, is that appropriate on Halloween? You just ring, they come to your door, ring, trick or treat. Yeah, the yakshas and rakshasas. Of course it's not, it's kids with a bag of candy. Bent on vexing men. And these are nasty, these are the real yakshas and rakshasas, not kids in costumes. When the demons hear the name of GuanYin Bodhisattva, they can't see them. The name hides the people reciting so that the ghosts can't see you. I have a story about that, which I'll tell you in a minute. All right, next, what? Look at this one. This is very interesting. It says, if there's a person who might be guilty, but might not be guilty, who is what? Locked up, imprisoned. Somebody who has fallen foul of the authorities. In America, we call it the police. The police, the popo, come up and knock on your car and say, put your hands where I can see them. Put your hands on the steering wheel. And then if you're black, you might get shot as you sit there. Not that that ever happens in Australia, never. So you get arrested by the authorities. Oh my goodness. Now, the interesting thing is, what if you're guilty and you recite the name of GuanYin Bodhisattva? Do you get it free? Are there like bad guys who are studying the Pumanpin and planning their next heist, and they're running it out of the bank reciting Namo GuanYin Bodhisattva, Namo GuanYin Bodhisattva with their money? So, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's quite that simple. So GuanYin Bodhisattva knows the difference, and if your heart is bent on stealing, chances are you won't even think of GuanYin Bodhisattva. But this is the idea, because why? Since civilization began, it is the case that people can be arrested incorrectly. They can be arrested for the wrong reasons, or they can be put in jail for political reasons because the person in power disagrees or is fundamentally an evil person. And as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, in times of injustice, the only place for a righteous person is in jail. So maybe that's the case. That's when this principle works. GuanYin Bodhisattva will help you find the righteous path. All right. Now, this one is the last one, and this is really fascinating. Look at this one. Very specific. So, suppose you are out, again, specifies business, and we can interpret this, not that you have to be a salesperson, you know, far from home. It's not the case. Travelers. The idea is if you're traveling, and suppose you wind up in the wrong part of town, okay, and you're with a group. If there's one person among the group who says, don't be afraid, simply recite Namo GuanYin Bodhisattva, the enlightened one who gives courage to all beings. He says, she says, if you recite GuanYin's name, you'll go free. So hearing this, instead of screaming or panicking, the group together recites Namo GuanYin Bodhisattva. Because they call out GuanYin Bodhisattva's name, they immediately go free. Oh, wow. Lots of dangers and difficulties. Wujin Yi, GuanYin Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, the awakened, the chief among bodhisattvas. Wei Shen Zhili, Wei Wei Rushi, awesome spiritual strength. It's like this. That's what GuanYin Bodhisattva can do. Okay. So that is the start of our Pumanpin. That's how it begins. And it's, here we go, right there. That's kind of the heartbeat of the Pumanpin. And that's the reason that GuanYin Bodhisattva, who used to be a Buddha, is now returned as a bodhisattva, because GuanYin looks out at people and says, wow, here's where I can help. This is where I can help. So GuanYin's primary existence is the vows that GuanYin made are primarily around these circumstances. So in the case of fire, in the case of water, in the case of demons, in the case of muggers, or in the case of police or unjust authorities, in the case of thieves or bandits, GuanYin Bodhisattva is there waiting for us to call on her name. Now, I'm sure some of us are looking and thinking, well, that's an interesting list of dangers, but actually, our dangers are much more like pandemics, auto accidents, train wrecks, plane crashes, boat accidents. We can be caught in a gun battle in downtown Oakland. Children die every year just by stray bullets. We can be caught in a mass shooting incident. We can be caught in a terrorist attack. There are how many Australians trapped in Gaza with no way out because they just simply can't come out? Or more and more likely is climate-related catastrophes. That's probably in our future. So what about these situations? This is much more likely than having us be out, you know, in a merchant's caravan in the hinterland. So GuanYin Bodhisattva absolutely does respond to our cries when we have situations like these, auto accident. So we don't have to say, oh, the Pumanpin is all about merchants on the Silk Road. No, the Pumanpin is about 2023 when we are on the freeway, when we are traveling in the rain, when there is a flood and we are riding in the passenger seat with somebody who they say, oh, I've got a ute, I've got a 4x, I can make it through the water, right? You've seen the billboards along the M1 that say, if it's flooded, forget it. Don't try it. Don't try to show off your ute's ability to float. You don't want to do that. So, yes, the Pumanpin refers to us now. What do you do? The method is the same. Namo GuanYin Bodhisattva. Namo GuanYin Bodhisattva. Same method. Okay. Story. So, I've told this story before, but not to all of you. If you were listening to a lecture about 4 months ago on a Sunday, you probably heard this story, but if you've heard it, sorry, you got to hear it again. That's the way it goes. So, in Alberta, Canada, dead of winter, I was on the staff of GuanYin Avatamsaka Monastery in Calgary. And there was another monk who was with me on staff. And this monk had a high opinion of his own driving skills. In fact, he grew up in Vietnam and had never seen snow before. He had no idea what he was doing. But he was very proud of his ability to deal with every situation. And in Canada, there's something that most Australians are completely unfamiliar with, and it's called le glace bleu in French, black ice in English. Black ice is a road condition where it snows, then it melts, then it freezes. So there has to be snow, then it has to warm up, then it has to freeze again. And if you have a macadam road, if you've got a blacktop road, the ice freezes and it looks like the road surface. In fact, it's ice. People you can't tell by looking until you get down and, oh, that's not blacktop, that's ice, that's frozen water. So the only way you know about it is to have the experience of driving over it, and it's ice. And what happens is, in a situation like that, and that's, miles and miles and miles of roads suddenly are black ice. If you hit the brakes, your car will spin. It'll do 360 or 180. And so the only thing, what what's required on these roads by law is snow tires or studded snow tires. That's what most people put on their rear tires. Is the tires have little nails coming out of them. So, and when they drive, they go. It's like a tread on your tire, so that on the ice, you're perforating the ice, and when you hit the brakes, you stop. So if you don't have snow tires or studded snow tires, when you hit the brakes, it's really, really dangerous. So there were two of us in this Ford panel van, which has a high center of gravity and is just a terrible vehicle to drive. It's a truck, and it's really high up, and it's the back is empty, and all the weight is in the front, and so it's vulnerable to wind, and it's a difficult vehicle to drive safely in good conditions. And this monk was very proud of himself, and I remember he was drinking a half-gallon of chocolate milk. He had packed a half-gallon of chocolate milk to drink from, and I was busy reciting the Great Compassion Mantra, reciting for all I was worth, because I knew this guy was not a good driver, but he insisted on driving. I had my copy of one of those 10-in-1 sutras, that people in Chinese, you could say, what is it, 佛经合版本10种佛经, with the Xin Jing and the Jingang Jing and the Pumen Pin and the Mito Jing and, Zhang Dao Ge. And I had that, and it had a plastic cover. It was a really good one, because it was kind of all-weather sutra copy. And I was reciting the Pumen Pin, because I wanted GuanYin Bodhisattva's protection from this idiot monk behind the wheel. And I remember we were just outside Banff. Banff and Lake Louise are this beautiful, beautiful scenic part of Alberta, not far from the British Columbia border. And I remember we were coming around a curve, and this monk had his arm on the window ledge, and he was holding the wheel with this, in this hand he had chocolate milk, and he was drinking from the chocolate milk and steering with one hand like this, right? And we came around the corner, and he misjudged it, and the rear end started to slide out. And what did he do? Hit the brakes. He hit the brakes, and the van spun twice, 2 360s. And in Canada, they make heavy use of snowplows, and they had plowed. This is the Queen's Highway we're on, Trans-Canada Highway, and on the side of the road, the snow from the snowplow made a wall about 6 feet high, and so you're looking to the right, you're going down a tunnel of snow, because the snowplows push it to the side, and the snow is. So our van spins twice, climbs the wall, and lands bang on its side and spins like that. So I'm now actually just 10 minutes before this accident happened, I had seen a roadside that said what? Ticket or click it. Seatbelts. Fasten your seatbelts or you'll get a fine. And I saw that and I realized I had not fastened my seatbelt. So 10 minutes earlier I go, oh, thank you. And I fastened my seatbelt. So this Ford panel van has got, the front seat has a lot of real estate. It's a big, broad front seat. The monk who was driving was now face down on the road, and I was suspended in the air by my seatbelt, about 3 feet above, down to where he was. He undid his seatbelt and crawled out the shattered back window and out, and I thought, oh, I better get out of here. So I undid my seatbelt and fell directly on the steering wheel and broke 2 ribs. I was impaled on the steering wheel. And so I chose to get out by climbing up the passenger window, which was now up there. I climbed up and out. And I remember the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties, were right there on the spot. And I remember seeing the Mountie, you know, with his Dudley Do-Right hat, which looks like an Akubra, you know. He's flapping his arms and going, "Wow, it's cold. It's really cold out here today. How you doing, fellas?" You know, we're like, nice to see you, Dudley Do-Right. Thank you for coming. And he's in the center of the freeway, the highway, and our van is, you know, shattered and lying on its side. And around the curve comes another car at 40 miles per hour, sees our van on its side, and hits the brakes and spins. And they didn't tip over, but they had the Mountie had to dodge the second car. "Oh, I better put some flares out." So he goes running up the highway, put the flares. And I came back with my, you know, in bright pain, having broken 2 ribs. And here in the center of the road, coated with snow, was my sutra book. Somehow it had flown out of the van, landed on the paint stripe on the black ice on the highway. And there it was. And I picked it up and blew the crystals of ice off it and put it in my robe and thanked GuanYin Bodhisattva and the Great Compassion Mantra for saving me. And I remember as the adrenaline slowed down enough, I remember I kind of ran the film back to what had happened. And as the van was climbing up the snowbank, I remember saying, "Namo GuanYin Pusa." And I had the mantra running in my mind, but I did say, "Namo GuanYin Pusa," and everything slowed down. It was one of those classic moments where you see, you know, frame by frame. And I had, by reciting GuanYin's name, I had like slowed down the experience of crashing on the Queen's Highway. And we were saved from any disaster, but my goodness, that's not, there was chocolate milk all over the highway, just everywhere. He had baptized the Queen's Highway with chocolate milk. What an idiot. He totally did not learn from that experience. He thought it was, you know. So anyway, I have survived. We told Master Hua, we called Shifu and said, "Shifu, we had an accident." And he said, "I know, I saw you." And he said, it's a good thing that you were reciting, he said, because there was, right there in that area of the Canadian Rockies, there are some negative energies that would be very happy to pick off a monk of mine, one of my disciples. And he said, because you were reciting, I could intervene, he said. So it's like, okay, sure, all right. So that's, if we look at the sutra, it says, if you're traveling along a dangerous road, and now I was not laden with precious jewels, but I did have a sutra in my hands and I was reciting the mantra. If one person says, with all your hearts invoke the name of GuanYin Bodhisattva, we will escape the danger. Now it wasn't thieves. In this case it was a headstrong monk who overestimated his skill. But because I was reciting the mantra, the harm did not land, right? So how imposing is the awesome spiritual power. And sometimes when I'm meditating, I can go right back to that experience and remember slowly climbing up the snowbank before the van crashes on its side and spins, and the noise. Ayo. So, true story. All right. let's do, okay, so that's the 7 qi nan, the 7 difficulties. What else? What else is built in to the Pumanpin? Here we go. Okay, ready? 若有众生多于隐喻，常念恭敬，观世音菩萨，便得礼遇；若多嗔恚，常念恭敬，观世音菩萨，便得礼嗔；若多愚痴，常念恭敬，观世音菩萨，便得礼持；无尽意，观世音菩萨，有如是等，大为神力，多所饶益，是故众生常应心念。If any living being with weighty desires can constantly revere and keep in mind GuanYin Bodhisattva, his, and you can use the word her if you prefer, his passions will subside. If someone with much anger can constantly revere and keep in mind GuanYin Bodhisattva, then his anger will subside. If someone dull and foolish can constantly revere and keep in mind GuanYin Bodhisattva, she will leave stupidity behind. Infinite resolve. The Bodhisattva who listens to the sounds of all the world with her magnificent spiritual power confers such abundant energies as these. Confers such abundant benefits as these. And so living beings should always keep her in their hearts and hold her name in mind. Okay, there we go. All righty. Now, a story for you all. When Master Hua went to Malaysia in 1978, it was my first visit to Malaysia as well, 1978. We had in our group a young boy named Gotong. And Gotong was actually the son of Dharma Master Heng Chi. Some of you know that Dharma Master Chi was married and had a son before she left home. I happen to have a winged bug who has flown down my back. Please go away. I want him to exit without my squashing him. Go, go, go. Okay. So Gotong decided that he wanted to become a monk. And he lived at Gold Mountain for a while. And he was quite a remarkable young man. He, by the way, Gotong is still very much alive and very happy. He lives in China. He's a businessman, nice guy. We have kept in touch with him. But at the time, I believe he was 10. He was a xiaoshami. He was a young novice monk. And he was a very normal, good kid with normal, good impulses. And now, was he 10 or was he 12? I think he was 12, maybe. Because what happened? He did shave his head as a novice monk. He wouldn't ordain till he was 20. But he wanted to be with Master Hua, because Shifu was awesome. And Shifu said to him, you know, if you can really make the Bodhi resolve and cultivate the way, you can have awesome spiritual powers. You can have 真正的大神通, 妙用. But you have to make the Bodhi resolve and actually cultivate the way. That's the difference. Okay, now, all of you know what happens to young men and young women around that age is puberty happens. And boys start to think about girls, and girls start to think about boys. Well, Guotong was just at that time in his life, and when we got to Malaysia, Guotong, instead of keeping his eyes on the Buddha, had his eyes on the cute little girls that came to the Dharma assembly. And he started to have a lot of what are called wangxiang, false thoughts, and kind of regretting the fact that he was now a young monk and couldn't do this and couldn't do that, and he kind of lost his Bodhi resolve at that point. So Master Hua warned him and said, Guotong, you've got to try harder. If you're wearing the robe of a monk, you have to have the thoughts of a monk as well. So be careful what you do. So Guotong said, okay, sure. Well, Guotong, the changes in his body and mind were proved to be pretty strong. The hormones were pretty difficult to resist. It's a normal thing for a young boy, young girl. And so we got to Maliujia, to Malacca, and Guotong found a cute little girl and had a private conversation with her, and was discovered, and just really got upset that he was not allowed to talk to anybody he wanted when he wanted to. It's a normal thing for a kid. So you could say he kind of turned his back on cultivation, and he didn't break his precepts, but his mind had already strayed far from the Tao, you could say. And so he was very unhappy. He was afflicted because he wanted to be a normal kid. He didn't want to be a monk anymore. Now, at that time, Marty Verhoeven, 那个 Bhikshu Heng Chao, who was the Dharma protector from Sambui Bai, had nearly died. That's a story for another time, but Shifu had saved Marty, and so here were two individuals at Qingyun Ting in Maliujia. Anybody know Qingyun Ting? In Malacca? 你们知道吗? Qingyun Ting, huh? That's Jinming, Jinxing, our Jin, the famous monks Jinming and Jinxing. So Master Hua was invited to go out to speak Dharma at a local high school, I believe. And the delegation, including all of the monks and nuns except Marty, Heng Chao, and Guotong, were invited to go out. So Marty was not well. He was not in any position to go out because going out to a new place speaking Dharma is difficult. Guotong was told to stay in because his false thinking had carried him into another realm. And so the two of them were staying behind at Qingyun Ting while everybody else went out. And so we all came back from the event, and here was Guotong, who, as soon as he saw Shifu, went running over and grabbed Shifu's feet and bowed at his feet. And Marty was looking kind of amused and kind of shocked at the same time. And Shifu said, 怎么样? 赶快说, 怎么样? 怎么一回事? And so Marty not speaking Chinese, I had to translate for him, and this is the only time I got to talk because I was keeping my silence vow. Talking to Shifu, I could talk. So the story came out. What had happened? Marty said, well, Shifu, we were sitting in this room on the second floor of the monks' quarters at Qingyunting, and I was meditating. And I told Guotong, the young boy, I told him that he had better recite the Da Bei Zhou to keep himself safe while Shifu was away, because I couldn't protect him. And so Guotong said, okay, I can do that. And he recited for about 10 minutes, and then he fell asleep. Namo Hola Dano. Fell asleep. And then he said, I was meditating, and suddenly the room got really cold. It got really cold. And there was a bad smell suddenly in the room. And I was watching, and Guotong opened his eyes really wide, and his color went away. He was totally white. And he started to recite, recite the Great Compassion Mantra as fast as he could. And he was trembling. And I said, Guotong, what's wrong? And Guotong said, did you see him? I said, what? See who? Did you see him? No, I didn't see anybody. He came right through the wall, said Guotong. Who are you talking about, Guotong? What's wrong? He said, he had this really, really tall black hat on, and he was dressed all in black, and he came right through the wall. He was coming for me. And I recited the Great Compassion Mantra, and he went away. Marty said, you sure you're not making all this up? No, I saw him. He was really there. I didn't see anything. Well, I don't know why you didn't see him. I said, just keep reciting. So Marty went back to meditate. And about half an hour later, Guotong sat up really straight and was reciting the Great Compassion Mantra, shouting the mantra as loud as he could, trembling. And the room was cold again. And so Marty says, what's going on? And for 10 minutes, Guotong was reciting. And then he said, he came back again. And so Marty said, okay, I'll help you recite, don't worry. So Marty's reciting with him. And they recited until the delegation returned and Master Hua came back. And Shifu heard this story, and he looked at Guotong, and he said, you really can't mess around. You have to take this seriously. This is not a joke, he said. Go to sleep. You'll be safe. I'll keep you safe. Tomorrow we'll have a meeting. So tomorrow morning came, and the whole delegation's gathered around. Guotong is sitting in the middle, this 12-year-old kid, just, and Master Hua says, all right, tell us a story, Guotong. Guotong said, well, he said, I was really thinking of this little girl. I told her I would meet her out by the fountain in the courtyard. And we were going to run away. He'd found some little girl who was going to run away with the monk. And he said, but of course, Shifu caught me and I didn't do that, and that's why I had to stay in the room. And he says, and I was sitting in there with Marty, and this guy, this thing came through the wall. He was really, really tall, and he had a black hat on his head, and he was dressed in black, and he was coming for me. He was going to take me away. He starts to cry. Shifu says, he said, you're lucky that you've taken refuge with a teacher who has some skill. Otherwise, I couldn't have stopped you. You know who that was? I think I do. That was the ghost of impermanence, Guotong. He was coming for you, he said. You make those vows, and under the teacher who you follow, you don't want to mess around. He said, it's real. He said, then you break your vows so carelessly, and I told you not to, but you went ahead and did it anyway. He says, if I didn't have a little bit of fa li, Dharma strength, I couldn't have saved you. He says, so Guotong, shape up, he said. Stop messing around. So, and Sherpa looked around at all of us in the circle. 你们都懂吗? We're like, 不懂, Sherpa. No, we don't understand, but we believe. So, this is, if demons infest a perilous road, if there's one person who can recite GuanYin Bodhisattva's name, they will all go free. So, true story. And boy, Guotong survived. He went back to the city of 10,000 Buddhas, fell in love with a little girl and climbed up on a garage and promised to jump off the garage and kill himself if she refused to marry him. And she didn't marry him, and he didn't jump off the garage. He had enough sense. But he went on to school, got well educated, and got married, lives in China, and very happy guy. Nice fellow. He's a good Dharma protector now. But I'm sure he doesn't mind my using his true story as a cautionary tale for folks. So now, some of you may be thinking, uh-oh, what about me? Well, if you haven't tried to leave home and then broken your vows, probably you're okay. So, but the positive side is, not that the ghost of impermanence is going to come for us, but we can be in situations of danger and spiritual danger, and if we remember to recite GuanYin Bodhisattva's name, GuanYin's sutra says she made those vows to save us. That's what those 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes are there to do. Okay, we are out of time for the song tonight, but we'll catch up tomorrow with some extra music. And what we, the section of the sutra that applies to Guotong is 多于隐喻常念恭敬观世音菩萨变得礼遇. If a living being has weighty desires, and a 12-year-old kid, he's full of hormonal changes. You know, you remember what you were like at age 12. It's a really hard time, trying to catch up with your own body. So, in those circumstances, if you can recite GuanYin Bodhisattva's name, 变得礼遇, your desires will lighten. Okay? There we go. So, yeah, alrighty. So, tomorrow we will catch up on some music, and we will hear, we're going to hear we've heard about the three poisons, greed, anger, and desire, greed, anger, and delusion, and we're going to hear tomorrow about the two wishes, which is wishing for a son or wishing for a daughter, that also are part of GuanYin Bodhisattva's vows. Alrighty? Okay, let's dedicate merit. I'll share my screen. And thank you all for joining, those folks who are with us online from wherever you are. This is a special GuanYin Bodhisattva session here at the Gold Coast Dharma Realm. It's a chance for people from, how many? We've got 60-some people on Zoom and probably more on YouTube who are listening in. Please make a wish of your own. Send out the goodness. As one with light, share the fruits of peace with heart. If people hear and see our hands and hearts can finally meet unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to may kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their free and free. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and one. May all become compassionate and one. Okay, we can bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Alrighty, that's going to do it for us for today. Amitofo. See you all tomorrow night.